How did the role of, Alice and just this project in general first come to you?
It came to me like any other role. My agent, DDO in Chicago, sent me the breakdown, and I did a self tape for it. And about a month later, which is longer than normal, they said that the director wanted to talk with me over Zoom. So we just chatted for like an hour, and he's like, just so you know, we've already made an android that looks like you. So you're kind of the choice. And I was like, okay, well, if this doesn't happen, then I don't know what's going on. But yeah.
Was there anything in that breakdown or anything in the script that really kind of like leaped out to you, like, I know exactly how I'm going to approach this performance, this character, like that kind of cracked it open for you a bit?
Um, I mean, I loved the character breakdown. It was very in depth. Jacob said he spent a lot of time developing Alice, and usually you get like a one sentence character description. Oh, she's a femme fatale who kicks ass, and it's like okay, but his was extremely detailed, and so I was just super intrigued by the character and excited to dive into it. I actually was also quite intimidated by it because I guess she's such she's described as such a fierce, like street smart, competent woman, and I felt I've always struggled with coming into my own confidence, I guess, as a woman. So I just had to channel my tomboy side, and I think that's really how I got into it. I was just like, just be a dude, be a bro, you got
Well,
this.
in speaking of the bro side of Alice, one of my favorite scenes in the film, not just with you in it, but like when you and Harry or James in the film are in that dive bar and you're passing the shots back and forth. There's
Mhm.
clearly like it's a negotiation, it's a dance, it's a verbal dance all at once. How is it kind of working out that scene, and how is it finding your on-screen rapport with Harry as a scene partner?
Yeah, so Harry was actually the one who suggested the tossing the shots back and forth. That wasn't originally written. And I thought it was a great idea because it just gave it a little bit more of a lively feel, especially since some of the stuff that Alice was talking about was pretty dark. Um, and also his mindset, I think he needed a break from the rabbit hole that he was going down into. Um, and Harry was a great scene partner. I remember we were outside the bar running the scene for the first time together with the director, and he just gave me one note, and I was like, "Of course, I. That's what we. I'm so glad you said that, and I think that helped our dynamic just kind of flow, and that kept the mood a little bit lighter, which I think the audience needed at that point.
Well, sure. I mean, and this is like a lot of conspiracy movies can get super self-serious and super dark and just
Mhm.
paranoid. And this movie definitely gets paranoid and disorienting at times intentionally. But Alice is a character that she has a lot of stuff going on under the surface. So when you're dealing with a character with that much nuance and all those kind of secrets that she has in her back pocket, how do you kind of like layer that into your performance, even when you're just kind of in the background on screen?
I would say I mean, that's what I always try to do with all of my characters, even if it's not, if it's a tiny role. I mean, there's no tiny roles, but if it's a character that doesn't have necessarily, the writer hasn't necessarily thought of a backstory, I always like to figure out how I can incorporate every single human emotion, not every single human emotion, but, a wide range of them into every single scene. Because I feel like that's kind of natural for humans, especially me. I feel like I'm all over the place sometimes. So I guess just trying to find the right parts of each scene, and because it was such a lengthy scene, I had the opportunity to, um, you know, put in different parts of Alice's personality throughout. And I think also my preparation, I take a ton of notes. They're just like all over my script. After I do the backstory work, I just try to figure out all these different thoughts that she might be having in each specific moment. And then after I work through it several times, I decide, I guess, in the moment, whatever comes just comes. And I feel like the editing is super helpful in being able to pick and choose what to put into the final product.
Sure. And I was talking to Jacob earlier, and he was saying that Sarah Sharp, in addition to having like multiple roles on this project, had a pretty good creative level of creative input, especially when it came to like costuming. How was it working with Sarah and developing the look for Alice in this movie and kind of like having that convey who she is while still keeping that level of intrigue and mystery about her?
Yeah, I mean, so she was the costume designer and the production designer on this. I don't know how she did both of them, but she was great. The options that they had, God, of course I don't remember the ones that we rejected because we rejected them. But what we ended up choosing, I knew from the beginning, Jacob wanted to have this trucker hat, and I thought that was super cool because I love hats, and I feel like that always adds to the mystery. And Scott, Scott, the cinematographer, had a great, lovely time lighting me with that. He constantly on set was like, "Oh, this gosh darn hat! I can't see your eyes." But I think it added whenever you have some sort of, I don't know if it's a prop or just the costume just made me feel really like I could hide and you know, be mysterious. Also the keys, I loved the keys that she had. It's like what I remember sitting there were so many of them. I was like, okay, I got to come up with the what all these keys are for. And I think I came up with like, six of the keys, what I would use them for. And I was like, I don't know, why does she have all these keys? But I thought that was fun to play with and have all these little trinkets because they wanted her to jingle while she walked and followed James down the alleyways. Yeah, it was in the boot. Oh, the shoes were so cool. They were like super thick. So it added like 3 inches to my height, and I just felt like a total badass in that outfit. Yeah, I loved Sarah, working with Sarah. She was amazing.
Well, as somebody that's worked on both sides of the camera extensively, what were some of the big takeaways that you had with this production? Like kind of like little tools of the trade? Because I feel like every project you're going to walk away with some lessons and some like new tricks up your sleeve. What were some of the big things you walked away with, being a part of this production?
As like I love producing, and I studied cinematography in school. So whenever I'm on a set, I'm just always observing everyone else. And I love trying to find people that I really mesh and vibe with to, consider like chatting about future projects in the future. And I thought Scott was such a great cinematographer, and we've, stayed in touch since then and want to shoot something together. Um, I mean, what did I guess I just learned a lot from Harry, really. It was such a quick shoot that what I learned is that he's very good at speaking up for and offering suggestions for how you could change a scene, even if it wasn't, written, like the thing in the bar. And then just keeping your energy up. He had great stamina throughout the entire process, and he was, it was a 4-week shoot, and he was on camera constantly. So just keeping his wits about him and just being professional throughout the entire time. It was cool to watch that, and just a great reminder.
With something like this, like that is both kind of a conspiracy thriller, but also ventures into the realm of horror. And this movie's coming out at the perfect time of the year for all that.
Yep.
Like, what is something? And you were on The Walking Dead, like you were like on like the biggest like horror show like on TV right now.
My
Like,
genre, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, but like when you're doing something like horror, and I know that you've kind of your role in broadcast signal is a little different, but I feel like you always have to give like 110% in terms of like emotion and energy. How is it constantly bringing that and maintaining that, even for something that's as quick a shoot as broadcast signal?
I think it depends on the role that you're playing, obviously. In these, I didn't have to do any, crazy screaming like a lot of horror movies. I would be the girl who's like, "Oh my God, save me!" But I didn't have to do that. So my stamina on this one was totally fine. I think it just comes down to, staying focused and not letting your mind wander and think, "Oh, I'm tired. This is hard." I remember when I was shooting 911, I was in one episode on that show on Fox, and I was just supposed to be freaking out and crying the whole time with Angela Bassett as my scene partner. And I was nervous because they did so much coverage. With TV, there's so much more coverage, and you're like, I need to figure out when I need to save, uh, my emotions. And I had to do that also. There's a scene in this movie where that was one big takeaway is after we did like 6 or 7 takes of it, I was like, okay, I know I just need to give it my all on the first, second take, and then bring it back in the right way because sometimes I can, well, I won't get into that, but yeah, you have to be like focused, and I have different little ways of accessing my emotion, and if I'm really tired, I have to like kind of cycle through all those different options because sometimes one of them doesn't work.
Yeah. In talking, you were mentioning that working with Harry, you got to approach scenes differently than they were written, like on a printed page and stuff. How was it
Yeah.
working with Jacob and kind of developing and kind of experimenting and see what worked and what didn't when you were putting scenes together with him?
I feel like we were pretty much on the same page actually. The only thing is he just would remind me to access my dude side because I needed that reminder. But other than that, I mean, Jacob was really great to work with. I think I mean, he said that I felt really zoned into Alice during my audition because I put a lot of work into it and I felt really comfortable with what I had done. And he was like, from the beginning, I felt like you were Alice, which is like a huge compliment. And so I feel like he knew what he was getting into, and I guess developing the character was done kind of before we got to set, I think.
Sure. I think I got time for one more, but yeah, now that this movie's in the can, you've had this experience, you've got to, um, lend your performance as Alice. What are you really excited as audiences kind of experience this movie for the first time in the days and weeks to come that to kind of walk away from, and especially with your own performance in this project?
I just hope I love going to, personally, I love going to a movie and walking away from it and being able to talk about it for like an hour afterward because I think that's the joy of experiencing a movie with other people, which has been weird, during the pandemic, not getting to experience things with people. And we just saw it for the first time in Chicago with an audience, which was great. I was like, oh my God, there's people here. We're all experience. There's like an energy when you're watching a movie with someone, and if you have people to talk to about it afterward, that's when all the conspiracy theories about a conspiracy theory movie come up, and it's just fun to talk about it and defend why you believe this thing is the truth or this thing. So I hope people just are able to step away from life for a second and just enjoy this.